And we are live with another episode of the Keeg Talks. Today, the Keeg Talks Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera. And if you're watching us live, you are watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. Or you listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. If you're listening to the podcast, you don't know who the guests are, unless I guess you were on social media earlier and you saw the posts on our, TikTok or Instagram or wherever we're at the Keeg Show. Anyway, let me introduce them. My guess, I haven't had him. I don't remember the last time I had him on the episode, but Gil has been a longtime guest of the podcast, of the live stream. We got Gil Baron, aka G.J. Baron. That's a tongue twister.
I'm usually the Star Trek correspondent here on the show.
That was the last episode I had you on.
Yeah, probably.
Have your views on Star Trek changed since then?
No, they've only gotten stronger.
Okay, good. There's been some good things.
Yeah. What could have happened that would have changed my views? You know?
Yeah.
My view is that I was pro, and I continue to be pro.
Good. Pro Star Trek. I'm glad to have you back, Gil. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on Ghostbusters.
I'm so excited.
Our second guest, we got Justin Jordan, aka Freddy's roommate. It's been a little less time, but I feel like it still hasn't. It's been a while. Justin, how you doing?
Don't worry, everyone. The check cleared, so I am back on the best late night comic show in the internet.
Thanks.
Did I get all my lines right? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, that's good. It is funny when you hear about like behind the scenes drama on other podcasts where they're like, ooh, they're not paying us, and it's like, but they said they would, and blah blah blah. So I will only pay you guys the big bucks to be here on the show. So thank you guys for coming.
True story. I actually unlocked a level on Dimitri's Patreon, and he's taking me to Disneyland because I unlocked the level on his Patreon. So definitely go subscribe to his Patreon.
Patreon.com/The Keeg Show. Unless you're talking about my personal Patreon where you just get special things from me personally.
Oh.
Aside from the Keeg.
Okay.
You take care of Dimithri and he takes care of you.
Yeah. It's sort of a sugar daddy thing, but I'm not sure in which direction. So we'll figure that out.
Oh, man. I was thinking in a totally different direction. When you said, you take care of Dimithri, he takes care of you.
For
protection. With my outfit today, because I definitely look like, Italian gangland, I swear, boss, I didn't say nothing.
I'm like, who's taking care of who? I don't know where this bit is going, but we all take care of each other, and it's nice, When it comes back to the Keeg, though, yeah, patreon.com/The Keeg Show. We're here to talk about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and this is a movie that just came out a couple days ago, and it is I don't know what number Ghostbuster movie, because it depends on what you count, but yeah, okay. It's the 5th Ghostbuster movie. That's fair.
True story.
I want to know, though, because I feel like we're all coming at it from different angles. How did you guys get introduced to Ghostbusters? What was your, because I feel like that determines how you feel about just Ghostbusters in general, is where you started.
Yeah, that seems like an accurate assessment. You want to go first, Justin, or you want me to?
I can go first. I don't know. I don't know if discovered is the right word. It feels very Chris Columbus. I discovered Ghostbusters in this, But I was a kid, and I had just seen Spider-Man for the first time. Spider-Man 2002 with Tobey Maguire, the best Spider-Man, by the way, but that's a whole nother podcast. And I have always been fascinated with how movies are made. Catch me watching on road trips. I would listen to the Pirates of the Caribbean director's commentary there and back over and over again. Just how did they make this movie? What does this mean? How does, And when I saw Ghostbusters, I'm like, how did this happen? How, in what world was this? Did someone greenlight this? Think this was a good idea? And how in the world have we not been able to make lightning strike twice? And if you're into like Hollywood gossip and Hollywood history, you can go to Hollywood, you could take off your shoe and throw it, and somebody somewhere has pitched a new Ghostbusters movie. They've been trying to get another Ghostbusters movie off the ground for decades. And so I love the movie, so I got fascinated. How did Ghostbusters 2 happen? Why didn't Ghostbusters 3 happen? Turns out Eddie Murphy was almost in Ghostbusters. What? How did that fall out? Like the history behind this movie is like truly fascinating to me. And so like when it comes around to like what's gonna happen or what we're gonna talk about here, I think honestly, this might be the best Ghostbusters movie, Frozen Empire. This
Wow.
might be the
Strong.
best one.
Strong.
Like,
Okay.
but hey, I don't want to spoil like my thoughts too early. But
No, I'm gonna hear all of them for sure.
Okay, so then really quick, if we're we're breaking this open, before we get into the nitty gritty and still go back to, I want to talk about our experiences with Ghostbusters. What would you rate this movie out of 10? This is for everybody. And then if you want to give a quick blurb, we'll get into depth a little bit later. But if you want to tell us your score and a real quick reason why, just so people listen to the podcast, they're like, okay, I guess I can peace out now because I know what they were gonna say. No, hopefully they stick to why. Maybe we incense some people to stick around. Justin, do you have a score out of 10? That's what we do here on the Keeg. It's out of 10.
I think I'm gonna give this an 8, a solid good 8, because I think there is room for improvement. And if this franchise continues, I think there is, but I think it's an 8 because I think it does what Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd wanted to do since day one. And now we have the money, the budget, the cast, the good writing, and the good direction to make that shit happen.
We got the tools, we got the talent.
Exactly. And now they have like, I don't know, the ability to truly fulfill their vision,
Yeah,
and
I know what you mean. I know you're talking about space Ghostbusters.
Oh, of course, obviously.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh no, I don't want that, but continue. Okay,
yeah, I'm gonna rate it slightly lower. Although I did like this film, I'm gonna say we're more around a 7. And if I'm like really staring myself in the mirror at like the dark soul, how I really feel, maybe like 6.5, 6.75, right? I think I get what Justin is saying. I also think as a film standing on its own, there are a lot of disparate elements that don't exactly come together. It is, when people say it's overstuffed, they're not wrong. There's at least 1 or 2 storylines that could be pulled pretty easily, and I think my overarching note is that although there are a lot of themes in this movie, and I think that that's really good, especially when compared to like, some previous chapters of this franchise that have had no theme. Yeah. There are themes here, but the villain has nothing to do with them. The villain and the theme are completely divorced from each other. The villain is kind of incidental in a lot of ways to everything that's going on. So that would be why it gets a lower mark for me. But that's me just being a story analyst, someone who likes to see a strong theme in a film. I think there's a lot of that here.
Yeah. I think when we grade these things, like I go at it from a logical point of view, but like I'd be remiss to say that like my enjoyment is not a factor in my grading.
For sure.
There can be good movies that are just not enjoyable, that I'm like I hate to bring up Tar. I brought up Tar? Was that?
Oh, again with the Tar. Dimithri, you gotta get over Tar.
I saw Tar. I fell asleep. I could not get back awake. I left in the middle. I was like, this is not a bad movie. I just do not enjoy it. I just can't. And like
last night, I went to the WGA screening of Dune 2, where Denis Villeneuve spoke and Chloe Zhao was there, and it was like super, super cool. And I hadn't seen Dune 2 yet, and now that I've seen all 3 Dune films, I'm not a Dune guy.
I'm not a Dune guy either.
I can respect, just like you're saying, like it is clearly cinema. It is clearly well made, and there are themes, and it's like contemplative. But like, I'm never gonna watch those films again. I just did not have a good time.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm not a Dune person, and I'm not here to yuck on anyone's yum. People who are Dune people, fine, great, good, you know. But
Yeah.
and Denis Villeneuve, there are more enjoyable films from Denis. Prisoners, is a much more enjoyable film, and it's much more low concept, like low.
I love Arrival. I think Arrival's great.
Arrival, yeah, you know, more enjoyable, and that's okay. So when it comes to this movie, they could have done it in a way that was not enjoyable to me. I did enjoy it. So
yeah, this was my double feature yesterday. It was Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, and Dune 2. And the one that I would watch again is Ghostbusters.
Yeah. I would definitely watch this again. I would watch this with my family.
Yeah.
And so I give this an 8 out of 10. And if I didn't enjoy it, it could be a 7, if not lower. So like,
I'm gonna go 7. I'm raising it 7.5.
Oh, you don't have to.
No,
none of us are getting paid.
But yeah, you want to know my Ghostbusters origin story?
Yeah.
So I'm the old guy here in the chat, and I grew up with Ghostbusters. I was born in '83, and I was, you know, my fandoms as like a little preschooler, kindergartner went Thundercats, Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles, like, you know, chronologically. Like I went from one to the next to the next. But I was all in on Ghostbusters. And the reason I was in on Ghostbusters is because of the cartoon. So I got into it from the cartoon. I didn't know there was a movie until like one day they were going to show it on TV, and I taped it. And as far as I knew, the movie was like the live action adaptation of the cartoon. I was 5 years old. And I'm like, I don't know. And that's what it seemed like to me. I was super, super into the cartoon. It developed most of my sense of humor. Recently, I got like the box set of the cartoon, and I watched like a random season 2 or 3 episode. And as they're going through, like I'm predicting the jokes they're gonna make. And these are shows I haven't seen in 35 years. I haven't seen these episodes in 35 years, and I'm like predicting the jokes because they gave me a sense of humor. Was this cartoon. So, I think that Justin is super right when he talks about how like missteps and how many misfires it was to get this franchise back up and running after the first one and after 2. But one of the common wisdoms that like I've never agreed with was all the people who've always said you can't recast those characters, that no one else could play Peter Venkman, no one else can play Ray Stantz. And I've always pushed back against that, because for me, the first person I ever saw playing Peter Venkman was Lorenzo Music and Dave Coulier, and Arsenio Hall was Winston, and Maurice LaMarche was Egon. So for me, like, as much as I love the live action movies, I think the franchise kind of stands on its own as archetypal characters, and that it's a lot more superhero than people give it credit for, and that if I were the Kevin Feige of Ghost Corps, I would be pushing more in a superhero direction, maybe rebooting the cartoon and whatever, that kind of thing. So that's my headline. So I came in from the cartoon, loved the movies. Every time I see a Ghostbusters movie, it's just me hanging out with my old friends. So that's how I feel.
As the person on this podcast who is clearly the youngest for me, being a Gen Z kid.
Excuse me.
So I am a 90s kid, right? Like I am very, very soundly put a 90s kid, right? And so for me, I didn't grow up with a lot of the 80s stuff. Like, I would get the tail end of the 80s, moving into the 90s, so reruns, that sort of thing. But, like, it's weird when it comes to these franchises. I didn't grow up with Transformers. I grew up with Beast Wars. Right? But I did, and I got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because that went into Power Rangers.
But this is what I'm saying, like,
went into the...
Like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is so smart, because there's a Ninja Turtles for every generation.
Yeah.
Every 5 years there's a new kind of Ninja Turtles, and the kids of that generation get their absolute own Ninja Turtles. And Ghostbusters, for whatever reason, hasn't gotten the same thing.
Right.
You know, they got Extreme Ghostbusters in the 90s. I'm not sure it's super well remembered by people.
I loved it. It only lasted a season. I loved Extreme Ghostbusters. So I watched real Ghostbusters, and then there were coloring books and stuff like that. Like I don't know why. Like I had a coloring book off of the Police Academy cartoon.
Yeah,
all these random '80s properties got cartoons, and so like RoboCop I knew as a cartoon. Like
RoboCop,
like
Little Shop of Horrors had a cartoon.
Conan. Like I knew as a cartoon. I didn't know it as a movie when I was a kid. I was just like, okay, whatever. So I'm eating up these cartoons, real Ghostbusters and then Extreme Ghostbusters, which also influences what I want out of Ghostbusters and the fact that I believe that anyone can be a Ghostbuster, right? Like
I agree.
So Extreme Ghostbusters introduced a whole new cast.
Like, to me, it's weird that the new movies have not mined the Extreme Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters video game that people love, you know, that's considered canon by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Haven't mined the IDW comic that came out a few years ago.
The comics are so good.
So good. And they do a really good job synthesizing stuff from the video games and from Extreme Ghostbusters, and Kylie's a character, and you know the real Ghostbusters.
Kylie's characters. 2 characters. Because Kylie from Extreme, there's a like regular universe Kylie, and then there's the Extreme Ghostbusters universe Kylie. Like basically, it's a multiverse thing. Justin, did you know that?
Yes, I knew it, and I think one of the more interesting things about this movie is that I think that they took a lot from, I think. What's the word I'm looking for? Extended Ghostbusters media.
Yeah. Please tell me more. Because I've been hearing a lot of this where people are saying that it's very inspired by the real Ghostbusters, and besides like the design of Slimer, I'm not sure that I see it exactly.
So I mean, number one, the idea of not everyone being scientists has been an idea that has been like kicked around in the Ghostbusters community because everyone likes to rag on Winston. Like, what does Winston do? You know what I mean? And so that idea has morphed into, well, wouldn't it make sense that one of them's a psychic? Well, wouldn't it make sense that someone has like maybe like powers or can talk to ghosts? Other people can be like everyone has a specialty, right? And that's how you get this growing cast of like different types of people becoming Ghostbusters, right?
Oh, we're getting into specifics.
Yeah, and so I won't spoil it. I won't spoil it that much.
Well, we are going to get into spoilers.
Yeah, we have to get into spoilers of this movie. So I do want to shout out a couple people in the chat. I want to shout out Ginger Snark, who just literally got home from watching it. She says she'd say it's an 8 out of 10. And then Aries 13 though said still hasn't watched it. He's gonna lurk. So Aries 13, just make sure that you know that there's gonna be spoilers. But you know you've heard our scores for each of these. But I want to shout out both of you guys for being in the chat. So thank you so much for being there. But there will be spoilers in this episode. Sorry, let's continue.
What was I saying? Oh yeah. So the idea of not everyone being a scientist is like people really like that idea.
I like that.
And so then you get characters like I think the girl in the Extreme Ghostbusters, Kylie, was a psychic or could talk to. Was it her?
Was she a psychic?
Was she open to the idea of that sort of thing?
Like, I haven't seen that show in a very long time, so I could be wrong about that.
I'm gonna look it up, but continue.
And you hear about all of these pitches that have come to the Ghostbusters office where one person can talk to ghosts. Well, one of them is a psychic, one of them is a medium, right? You know what I mean? And not that the Long Island medium influenced Ghostbusters, not at all, but like the idea is less scary than it was in 1984, right? And so spoilers ahead for Ghostbusters.
Was it ever scary, really?
As a kid, I was scared by the librarian ghost.
Yeah, but these are moments where you get scared. You know, I remember taking my niece and nephew when they were like 5 years old. They re-released the movies. I think this was like the 30th anniversary, maybe. So yeah, that would have been 10 years ago that they were like young kids, and and I remember, so they were like really little, and when the when the demon bears show up, the demon dogs, they were like latching on to me, like, Uncle Gilly, can we get out of here? Because this is scary as shit. And I was like trying to think of myself, why wasn't, because I saw it also, must have been 4 years old. Like, why wasn't I scared about it? And I think the reason is because that TV show, that cartoon, really prepped me for it. It was like, oh, look, there are going to be real monsters, and some of them are going to be really scary looking, but don't worry, the Ghostbusters are going to win. Do you know the movie reviewer Bob Chipman on YouTube? He goes by Movie Bob. Sometimes he does a series called The Big Picture. Really smart guy. I really enjoy his videos, but he used to do a series called Really That Good, where he'd go to sort of classic films and just dissect them. And what's the thing that really makes this tick? And he said a thing about Ghostbusters. His video on Ghostbusters is great. Something he said about Ghostbusters really changed my thinking on it. And it was that the fantasy isn't about, it's not a slob comedy, right? It's not just stripes with ghosts. It's not just meatballs. It's not just Police Academy. There's something a little bit more about this, and there's something that really like hits kids about it because, there's nothing about it that also screams kids franchise, right? Like the first movie, he's like, there's foul language and monsters and whatever. Like, why is
Ghost blowjob?
Ghost blowjob,
By the way, I didn't see the ghost blowjob scene until I was an adult because when I watched it on TV, they cut that whole scene out.
Same. Like I said, my copy of Ghostbusters was recorded off the TV, so I didn't have that. But anyway,
I never knew what anyone was. It was the weirdest thing when people were like, "Yeah, the ghost blowjob scene." I'm like, "That what? No, that's not a thing. That's not a real thing."
So one of the things he says is like why Ghostbusters really hits is because it is the fantasy for kids that the things you're scared of in the world, the boogeyman in your closet, whatever's hiding under your bed, that it can be beaten by technology. That if you are smart enough and clever enough, like there is a technological solution to this. If you have the right kind of laser gun, you can beat the monster, the things that are unknown out in the dark. And I think there really is something to that there's like, it is about technology beating supernatural, right?
And if you can't solve it yourself, who are you going to call?
There is someone to call.
Get out.
No, I'm serious. I know that's a joke, but it's serious. There are heroes out there that can save you, right? Just ring
right. There are people who specifically come to take care of the things that like scare you, the things that are unexplainable, and that is to get into our spoilers of what's coming next. Why I didn't think the Kumail story really worked in the end.
Oh,
that's me laying the groundwork for why I don't think it did. Even though I thought he was fantastic, I thought he was one of the funniest parts of the movie. I loved everything about him up until the ending, and I have a specific note for how to fix it.
Yeah. So as we jump into this movie, how do I put this? Did you guys like the Kristen Wiig Ghostbusters movie? And did you like Afterlife? Because I feel like somebody said that technically the closest Ghostbusters has gotten to the first movie is the Kristen Wiig 2000 whatever movie. Like, what's up? That it was a group of comedians doing their thing. That's what people say they want, right?
People don't know what they want.
Right, but I'm just saying that people said what they wanted was they wanted the quote unquote top comedians of their time, and then they hated that they were women. But like top comedians of the time busting ghosts, and that's just what Ghostbusters is. But I feel like
women were not the problem with that movie.
But people say it was. I'm not saying.
I know, but the fact the female comedians were not the problem. I'll let Justin go first, but I have thoughts about that movie.
Well, I mean, I was going to let you guys keep talking and get canceled, but...
What am I getting canceled for? All right.
I'm just messing with you. So, like you said, they've been trying to do something like 2016 for a very long time. I think, like I said earlier, everyone could pitch something Ghostbusters. I bet, 2002 rolled around. Someone's like, hey, big studio executive, I have a great idea. Ghostbusters, but Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah,
Chris
for sure.
Farley. They have been trying to
For
do
sure.
that for decades, right? So you would think it would work. I think 2016 is a good movie. I think it's a good Ghostbusters movie, but I think the main problem of that movie is that at the end of the day, who is it for? And what I mean when I say that is that if it's for Ghostbusters fans, that's amazing. That's great. I love that. I love the new packs. I love the new technology. But what is the relationship with the Ghostbusters with like things like the ghost that they beat? What is the relationship with the degrees that they have besides maybe like what's her name? What's her name?
Leslie Jones.
The girl with the glasses who made the technology. What's her name?
Melissa McCarthy. Oh, you're talking about Kate McKinnon's character.
Kate McKinnon's
Mm,
character, great character, like a great fully realized Ghostbusters persona, right?
yeah.
But what is she besides that? I guess I don't know, very two-dimensional
Hmm.
representation. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, she
My
was
main
very
problem is that
cartoony.
these characters felt like sketches of people as opposed to
Yeah.
actual people. You know
Yeah,
what I
they
mean?
it seemed more like the problem with the movie, and I do like the movie. I remember watching it and being like, that final scene with the blasted and the whatever, like, cool, you know?
The Ghostbusters themselves in the world of the movie have to take it seriously
Mm,
for the concept to work. If everyone is saying something with a slight grin or a slight smile on their face, you know what I mean? And like they know it's a joke, then it doesn't work as well. You know what
right.
I
I
mean?
agree.
And that's when people like Peter Venkman, who does kind of like, I'm sarcastic, I'm an asshole, right? But when the going gets tough, when like who actually leads the team when they're trying to bust Slimer the Ghost? Who actually knows how to do the correct like what's a test on Kumel's character that he does? You know what I mean?
Mm, yeah.
The characters themselves have to believe in the logic of the movie for Ghostbusters to work. Because
I
if
agree with you.
they don't, it just feels like a sketch.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
That's what that movie seemed like. It was seemed like a parody. They were just like, okay, let's like paste off like kind of what we want, and up to even Leslie Jones's character, which I have that problem with the original movie, is the disrespect that fans and I feel like the story have towards Winston, and
Right.
then
But we
they
know that that story got chopped down,
right
you know, as they went along, and that even Ernie Hudson was pitched on it as, there was this background that he was a Marine and,
yeah.
all of this stuff, that he was going to be like sort of the tactical leader of the Ghostbusters.
But that didn't come to fruition, and then they
No,
did it
for sure.
again with Leslie Jones. She was just what was she? She was just
No.
a toll operator. Was that what she was?
Well, who cares what her like day job was? The question is what she brings to the team. And like Leslie Jones was not the problem with that movie either. Like,
I'm not saying she was.
the plot was not the issue. The plot was perfect. It was a mystery. They solved the mystery. They fight the bad guy. Whatever. Like it escalated in a very logical progression. The problem with
So
that movie was Paul Feig. Paul Feig has never met a theme in his life. He does not know how to establish a theme. He doesn't know how to follow through with a theme. He falls so in love with people's improv that he cannot edit that out. So the essential problem with the movie is, so at the very end, during our climax. So um, at the end, you have Melissa McCarthy's character kind of standing off against the bad guy, right? And then Kristen Wiig shows up, and like Melissa McCarthy has like gone through the portal. I think it's been a long time since I've watched it.
yeah, I haven't.
She
Yeah,
goes through the portal, and Kristen Wiig like jumps in after her, right? And Melissa McCarthy goes, "You came, you showed up." There's never a point in the movie where you don't think Kristen Wiig's going to show up. So what is that line? So they started to set up this theme, right? At the beginning of the movie, you're setting up, oh, Melissa McCarthy feels abandoned by Kristen Wiig, right? That she believes in this ghost science. She thinks that this is what their career and their life should be, but Kristen Wiig cares more about being accepted by the academic community, and so she's given up ghost science and is teaching some normal science,
yeah.
right? So that should be your conflict, is that Kristen Wiig believes in the ghosts, but in order to be accepted by society, she is like pretending she doesn't. And that Melissa McCarthy is trying to get her to be true to herself. That is like a theme they sort of establish in the first act. As soon as Kristen Wiig immediately joins up with the team, like Melissa McCarthy, that she comes and embarrasses her at the college, and Kristen Wiig's like, fine, I believe in ghosts and whatever, and joins the team. And there's never any more conflict about it whatsoever. There's never a conversation with the dean. She's never conflicted. There's never a lowest point, a story beat where Kristen Wiig says, I can't do this anymore. I don't believe in this stuff. I need to be accepted and taken seriously as a scientist, and abandons the Ghostbusters, which is what the theme they're trying to establish. What Paul Feig instead does is he falls completely in love with Chris Hemsworth and lets Chris Hemsworth fucking run the table. Runs the fucking table, and none of it is good. It's all bad. He literally doesn't know what a phone is. Like, it doesn't exist. His character doesn't exist in the same world as the other characters. And you want to be like, okay, he's dumb, but he's like good-hearted. But at the end of the movie, when everyone's in trouble and he's in a Ghostbusters outfit, he fucking goes and gets a sandwich, guys. He goes and gets a sandwich instead of caring about his new friends that he's made. So that proves not only is an idiot, but he's also a bad person.
Well, and it's also, you see it in improv scenes where it's like going for the joke.
Going for the joke instead of going for a theme.
Yeah.
This is my problem with 2016. It has nothing to do with them being women. Those are obviously all talented comedians. They had a plot. If you had given them something to really play, if you'd given them a coherent theme, that movie would have worked just fine.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Do you have any thoughts about this before? I want to go to Afterlife.
We got to go in.
Hop to Afterlife to hop to this one.
Yeah.
Fun. Like, I mean, all that being said, in the original, it was supposed to be 4 Ghostbusters of what's it called? Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, and Dan Aykroyd. But the 4th Ghostbuster was supposed to be Eddie Murphy. His contract fell through, right? So Ernie Hudson's role as Winston Zeddemore got severely reduced to where he's coming in the middle of the movie, right? And through years of like the memification of Winston Zeddemore, right, you get black guy on the team who's not a scientist, right? And so when it comes to 2016, I think they took the meme of black person who's on the team who's not a scientist, when there was a little, I guess, kernel of truth and a bright idea of maybe Leslie Jones is the local historian. She can talk to people. She can like relate to people in a way that these scientists nut jobs can't.
Yeah,
that's a kernel of an idea could be used, But I think they delivered it in Frozen Empire. And when it comes to Afterlife, I think what's really funny is that I think when Star Wars came out, one of my big critiques was it feels like a Star Wars movie about Star Wars. In a way that other Star Wars movies aren't about specifically Star Wars,
You're talking about Force Awakens?
Yes, Force Awakens. And so, and then and then so Stranger Things comes out, and like I'm like thinking like, wow, man, these kids would really make like some good, like this relationship between 4 people or 3. I mean, because Will Byers isn't there like half the time, right? I'm like, man, like this is a good ensemble. Like these people would make really good Ghostbusters, I thought to myself. And then season 2 came out. I was like, oh my God, someone's listening to me. Someone's answering. Oh my God. And then Afterlife came out, and Finn Wolfhard is literally in Ghostbusters Afterlife. Yeah. I'm like, who tapped my phones? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? So I'm already primed to like Afterlife after that. And one of the reasons why they never would do a Ghostbusters 3, honestly, is because Harold Ramis was like, Ghostbusters 2, it wasn't, you can't catch that lightning again, you can't. And like Harold Ramis looks severely different than he did in the first 2 Ghostbusters films. So he was not like itching to put back on a suit,
Yeah, he got big.
And so
it was also like, he was directing. He didn't need to
exactly. He's moved on. In 2014, after he died, everyone was like, well, we can never make this again. And so when Afterlife comes out, I like it in the way that I like Star Wars The Force Awakens, in that I love it because I love Star Wars. I love it because I love Ghostbusters. They're doing it again, right? But I'm more curious about what you have to say in the next movie when you have your legs. I enjoyed
Yeah.
it. I loved it. I didn't appreciate digging up the corpse of Harold Ramis, but it's a whole nother podcast. you know, and I'm like, yes, I love Gozer. Yes, I love like all the all the Gozer lore, but
Yeah.
like let's do something new. And so when Frozen Empire comes out, I'm like, finally, new
Right.
ghost, new ideas,
New characters.
new characters. Finally, you know what I mean? Like, that's why I said like this is the Ghostbusters movie that they wanted to make since the 80s. They finally get to dig into something new, which is why I liked it so much. And I liked Afterlife a lot because Phoebe Spangler, like I said this, I think I said this on Letterboxd, she's the heir apparent to Ghostbusters franchise. It doesn't happen. This might sound glib and I don't mean it to. If the other three Ghostbusters unfortunately pass away, I think we're in good hands with characters like Phoebe Spangler and her brother and Paul Rudd,
Yeah.
and Kumail Nanjiani. I remember, I'm so like, this is very weird. I remember the podcast where someone pitched Kumail Nanjiani on Ghostbusters. And he's like, I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea. He had like a whole X-Files podcast. And then you're like, no, man, you would make a great Ghostbuster. And now he's in a Ghostbusters movie. Oh, I was so happy. I was over the moon. But you go ahead, Gil. I've talked too much.
No, I think that everything you said was completely right. I felt similarly about Afterlife, although I enjoyed it more than it sounds like you did. I just thought it was well done, and I thought that you're right about the digging up the corpse and the using CG to recreate a character, but like just within the world of the film, just taking the film just as a film. I think it does work within the narrative of the film. I think it is meaningful. I think it is beautiful. And you're right. It gets them back to New York. They have to get out of New York to do it, and it gets them back to New York to do it. And like I said before, I'm a Ghostbusters fan from the cartoons, right? So for me, it's not that important that it's Harold Ramis and Bill Murray. For me, that's not that important. I think that, like I said, to me those are archetype characters. You've got the smart one, you've got the spazzy one who's Ray, who's kind of like too excited about the ghost lore, and you've got the sarcastic one, and you've got Winston, which you're right, it's a little amorphous what his character was, but I think that the comics and the cartoon really helped for him to become like the everyman character,
And I like his development in this, by the way. Just the fact that
this was
Zedmore redemption, baby.
In a lot of ways, this was Ray and Winston's movie in a really great way. And that scene in the stairwell, I thought was so good.
What was the scene in the stairwell?
Where Winston is telling Ray,
it's
the golden years monologue.
Yeah, well,
like,
they
how am I supposed
like,
to do something?
Like two teams, in a way, right?
And they had well, this is what I mean by that the movie's a little overstuffed, right? It's going in several different directions. None of them are super bad, but they don't necessarily weave together in the end.
Yeah. I like all the characters. Truth be told, I have a question. If there was one character you had to cut from the movie, which character would it be? Because I already know. I don't even know his name.
Oh, his? Okay. We're thinking of two different characters then. Never mind.
You're going to say Melody.
Oh, I love Melody. That was my... Oh, my
Melody.
gosh.
You're going to say the mom?
No.
I wouldn't
Melody.
cut the mom. I thought the family story was great.
Melody was like...
that
was prime. Inject that into my.
Okay. Can we get into Frozen Empire? I feel like we have to talk about it.
So
Okay.
for me, if I'm gonna cut one person, no, it's not podcast. Though I feel like podcast didn't do much in this, and I was kind of sad for a couple of reasons, and I'll get to it.
There's so many things going on. It's not a TV show. Not everyone gets an episode.
Right. But like, I want there to be more stories being told. Like, let's make this an episodic series. And just explore more things, which is like a cartoon, like a TV show. No, it's that Dr. Lars Pinfield, that the white guy with glasses.
The guy who looked like Egon from the cartoon.
What was his point?
Oh, I love Renfield. I thought his name was Renfield with
It
the
did look like it said Renfield
It says
also on his,
it's
but it was
Pinfield,
Pinfield.
but
Yeah.
like
No, I loved him so much.
I
It's
liked
like
I
him
can't. Are you sarcastic, Justin? I'm just
no,
wondering.
I'm not being
Okay,
sarcastic
okay.
because I love, okay, so the idea, I'm sorry, I'm gonna like geek all over this movie. The idea that Winston has his own set of Ghostbusters who are Ivy League trained that like take it like way too seriously is
And
such
by the
a
way, it includes the other girl from Oklahoma.
yes.
Yeah.
What a beautiful, like funny
What's her name?
concept.
Lucky? It
Yes,
includes Lucky. It includes James Acaster. It includes a whole staff of other people, a
People in the
paleo,
background.
an ectobotanist.
yes. And here's
Yeah.
the thing. I don't need Renfield and Lucky to have their own like storyline. I think they delivered and left perfectly, right? The scene where
Right.
like they're trying to figure out the
They
orb
filled
and
out
he
the world.
touches. Yeah, like I don't need them to like have a whole arc. You know what I mean? Like characters like I have a big rant coming on TikTok where like not everyone needs to have an arc. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
and I don't mean that in like characters can't learn and grow and change. You know what I mean? Like I think people like toss that out on the internet like this character had no arc, bad writing. You know what I mean? And like I think Renfield delivered his lines and delivered the like emotionality that he needed to and
Yeah, as long as they feel
technobabble.
like they're a real character and they really live in the
Yes.
world and they help push forward the plot, then they deserve to be there.
Exactly. So when Ghostbusters has always wanted to be a big franchise, right? I think one of the mistakes that the writers talked about in the first two is like if the Ghostbusters are good at their job, there could be no Ghostbusters. You know, like
Which
oh,
is
they
what
Yeah, but
devastate
Afterlife
the
did,
world.
and it's what
Yeah.
Isn't that
Extreme Ghostbusters did that too.
isn't that the
Yeah.
problem with any superhero franchise? Like if Superman is good as his job, there's no reason for them there to be Superman. Like I don't think that's a criticism, you know?
No, like I think the main problem in the first, not the main problem, but like one of the like little hiccups is that they win and all the ghosts go back in the portal, right? And then the second one,
Do
they're
they?
like, why?
I don't think that
Yes,
happens.
because the Ghostbusters are going out of business in the second one, and they have to go to birthday parties and stuff like that to get their money up because
They're
there's no.
they're going out of business because of the damage caused in the first one.
Both are true. Yes, both are true.
No, they're not running out of ghosts.
Yeah,
Or
they
whatever. I
only.
mean, assuming that the cartoon happens, there's a ghost every week. There's always another demon. There's always another god. There's always another spook. There's always another something, right? So, you know, what? It's not that Gozer was like the king of all ghosts, or even that this character Garaka or whatever is the king of all ghosts. Is that there's always something going on, and I think that Ghostbusters is malleable enough that they could fight vampires, werewolves, zombies, kind of anything in the supernatural milieu.
And they do in the comics. Just
They do in the comics. They do in the cartoon.
reading the Wikipedia, all I can see is that it says the Ghostbusters are being sued for property damage incurred and barred from investigating the supernatural, which forces them out of business for number 2. But I can't see anything about that all the ghosts are gone.
Yeah, I don't think the ghosts are gone. And even in this one,
Chat, bring it up. Look it up.
Somebody
I
in
don't
the
think
chat
there's
watch
any-
the movie.
Roll the
right now.
tape.
there's nothing textual in the movie that says all the ghosts are gone. In
Well,
fact,
I
as
guess I'll
soon
have
as
to
they,
watch it again. Oh darn.
I mean, there's nothing textual about it. I mean, if you can read it that way, I'm sure that's perfectly fine. I'm just saying there's nothing
Yeah.
explicitly said that says that. And I think that there's a reason for that because they want to leave room for like, oh, Ghostbusters the animated series happens. You know, I think they want to leave enough space for that to be people's like headcanon.
Nah, the
Also-
cartoon is the canon because remember when they go to the movie of
Right?
Ghostbusters
Yeah.
and like
They go and they see.
this
Yeah.
is inaccurate. What? That guy doesn't even look like me.
What's funny about the cartoon, Men in Black, the cartoon also does it, where Frank the Pug tells Hollywood about the Men in Black, which are supposed to be a secret, and then they cast Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones in the movie, in the cartoon. And like, anyway,
Pretty silly.
yeah. So, when it comes to Frozen Empire, wait, who are the... Oh, Ginger Snark says... Well, so Ginger Snark is also standing up for Pinfield, saying Acaster's character was great.
I liked him.
I mean, I didn't think... I don't know. I'm just like,
Okay, I mean, you're allowed.
you know...
I'm going to give you some reasons here that
Yeah.
maybe will change your thoughts. So I'm going to go through kind of my thoughts everywhere.
Okay.
Because I feel like the main issue with this film is so there's a lot of really good emotional stuff happening with a bunch of characters. I really liked the story with the parents that they're trying to decide how to define the relationship and can they call him dad or whatever. And although like that should have been fixed with a very simple conversation, it was still I thought worked within the context of the movie. I liked Ray's story of, he can't let go of the Ghostbusters, so he's like, kind of putting the kids in danger by doing this stuff. I liked the Phoebe and Melody story, where, she finds this person who kind of understands her in a way that no one else does. My issue with this story, my two main problems are that the villain doesn't attached to any of the themes here. Like plot-wise, it kind of makes sense that Melody...
all the ones except for maybe two.
Yeah, does Gozer fit with the
Gozer doesn't,
The first film is an insane movie in that it has no theme. Peter has no arc, but somehow it works. But Gozer very much like fits with Dana. Like it's the Dana investigation. I don't know. I'd have to think more about like what Gozer represents. But here, like, this is what I thought was a weakness here, because the bad guy feels a little incidental, right? I think that in terms of pacing, I personally would have let the bad guy come in earlier and let him...
People said that, but Gozer pops up just at the end.
But it's a different movie. But it is a different movie, and it has about a dozen more characters.
Yeah. Ghostbusters 2. Vigo the Carpathian only pops up.
No. Vigo's there the whole time. The whole movie's
the painting, the
pink slime.
Yeah, the Vigo is much more present in his movie, than I think Garaka is. I would have had him win earlier and like really show the scale of what it means for him to win and let the Ghostbusters fight back from like a real place of losing, because here, the big storm comes in and freezes New York, and then Garaka shows up at the door of the firehouse, and like another 15 minutes it takes him to walk across the driveway. It's so weird that like once he shows up, it's like, it's so slow. And I don't know what he wants at that point, because if he's already won, what does he want from the Ghostbusters? If like the ghosts have all been released from the trap and he has his army, what is he doing there in the firehouse at that point?
To kill the Firemaster?
Yeah. To kill the Firemaster.
Why?
I thought he already thought he killed the Firemaster, right?
It's the only
and by the way, he could have just fucking killed him. Like he keeps giving the Ghostbusters opportunities to beat him. That's what I'm saying.
Wait, doesn't he go there to open up? Like, isn't he trying to
open up the crack?
Open up
He's trying to go to the Ghostbusters house
to let the ghosts out of the containment unit.
No, they're already out, right?
All of them.
And then he lets them out.
But then
he stays, and he's just slowly
it's a portal, right? Didn't they say that like they're on like, maybe they didn't say ley line, but they're on like a specifically supernatural spot, that firehouse? Didn't they say something like that?
Maybe.
Okay, maybe I'm making that
up.
up.
Then it wasn't clear to me, and I saw the film twice.
Maybe I'm making that up.
Yeah, you might be right, but I saw it twice, and it wasn't super clear.
Oh, I guess I have to see it again,
Justin
Dimithri.
shaking his head.
I think I get where you're coming from, Gil. I do, but like I think it fits perfectly in the Ghostbusters wheelhouse, where it's like it's just another ghost. It doesn't have to be like
that's fine. But this is just one of, I think, three major things. Okay. The second thing is the Phoebe Melody story.
Uh-huh. Loved it so much.
I thought it was really beautiful. I really liked the moment where she gets betrayed, the moment where she turns herself into a ghost. It didn't track for me why she was ready to turn herself into a ghost. I didn't see the connective tissue between we're becoming friends to we need to be on the same plane of existence, because I know that there was like, it's a little bit of queer love story. Okay. It's really adorable.
Yeah.
Like that's very nice. And I thought that like worked once it happened, but I didn't see that there was a connective tissue. There was a scene missing for me. Here's what I really liked about that story, especially as it was building, is Melody is the very first ghost we've ever seen in this franchise who seems sentient. right? She's the first ghost we've ever seen that's just Casper, that's just like a person with a personality that's whatever. Every other ghost is like a Muppet or a monster or whatever.
Her grandpa.
Yeah, Egon.
Okay, Egon. You're right. Besides Egon. So this is the first ghost that we've, besides Egon, that we've seen that like has a personality. And the scene after we meet Melody is when we're introduced to the ghost core, introduced to like the aquarium, right? And we get all of this stuff about like, we're pulling ghosts out of these possessed objects and we're treating them like vermin, essentially. We're treating them like extermination, just denying their humanity, right? So you have these two scenes that are juxtaposed against each other. You have a ghost with a bunch of humanity, and you have the Ghostbusters treating ghosts with a lack of humanity, right? That's a fucking theme. That is an interesting thing to explore, right? Is, hey, are we the bad guys? Because, maybe Slimer has a family out there. Maybe Slimer needs their unresolved stuff resolved. Maybe there's like a different way to stop hauntings than just like forcibly remove a soul from an object, right? And like they're juxtaposed together for that reason. And like Melody comes to the firehouse and there's like, oh, the place where you exterminate people like me. And like there's even that moment in the diner where Podcast is like, shoot it. And Melody goes, what do you mean it? Like that's powerful. That's like, oh, these are souls and we're treating them like cockroaches, right? That's huge. And that's, I think, enough of a theme. And then, like, they try to... So, I don't understand, then, why it turns into Phoebe's just horny for this cute ghost. Like, there's not... They're, like, spending time together, and, like, I feel like it's going to... Phoebe is going to learn that ghosts have humanity. Maybe there's a reason why ghosts go from what Melody is to what Slimer is. Maybe it's like the longer they're dead, the more their humanity they lose, like, in a Gollum kind of way. Like, there's a lot of stuff you could do, but what it ended up being was just the Judas Contract, from Teen Titans. Like, it just becomes, like, they're talking and, oh, my parents grounded me. Oh, that sucks. Oh, I wish we could be on the same plane of existence. And I'm like, wait a minute, wait. Why do you want to be on the same plane of existence? What is it you want? And then I realized, oh, it's so they can bone down. And that's fantastic. That's adorable. Love the queer love story. Love a teenage queer love story. But, like, I just didn't see the connective tissue. And go ahead, tell me why I'm wrong.
I'm not going to tell you you're wrong about your interpretation of the movie.
No, I mean, I might be
Twitter.
Wrong.
This isn't Twitter. No, I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong. You know what I mean? Like,
but am I right?
I mean, I have some thoughts. I'm gonna jump in on this one. Just real quick. I think that they could have explained it. The way I see the ghosts in this there are ghosts that are like 100% of your spirit, right? And we see 100% of your spirit because when Phoebe gets taken out, 100% of her spirit gets taken out, right? But then there are ghosts that are like ideas or trauma that it's not 100% of your spirit. It's the trauma that you left behind. So those are the things that attach to things, and those are the things we got to get rid of, right? And hopefully your soul hasn't ascended to the next plane of existence.
None of that has been explained.
The trauma doesn't need to go with it. Oh, no, I know. This is the way I'm seeing it.
This is fan canon entirely.
Yeah, this is not... this could have been written better and explored that point, right? But also...
They're setting it up. They're trying to set that up.
But they never do.
There is a difference between a Phoebe and a Slimer, or a Melody and a Slimer, and what is that difference? And you even have like the library ghost that's still sitting out there, but like that's just a ghost who's obsessed with like shushing people.
We haven't tried to bone her, so the librarian ghost could have wants and desires and sexuality. But
Peter does try to bone her in the first scene of the first movie.
Does he?
I mean, like, where are you from originally?
And then she goes, blah.
No, it does. I mean, I don't think he's trying to bone her.
He's not. He's just being
using like, I don't know, his wits to like.
Yeah.
Come on, we're not. I don't think he's actually trying to fuck the ghost.
No, he's not.
I'm joking.
But Ray definitely fucked a ghost.
Is it a dream? It's a dream, right?
Then why is it in the montage?
Because he wakes up from the dream and then he turns.
I know he's being haunted. It is a ghost comes to him in his dream.
So the real reason why that's there, I did recently did a table read of the movie Ghostbusters, and we used the original shooting script, and they had the full scene in the shooting script, right? It's a remnant of there's a scene in the first one where Winston and Ray go on a job without Egan and Peter.
Mm-hmm.
They go to a military base that is haunted by a ghost, right? And then they like do a whole scene right there that got cut. They kept the scene where they're coming back, but
I
in
love
that
that. That's my
scene
favorite scene in the whole first movie.
where they
Is
talk about, so I'm gonna
yeah.
go off for a second, not go off, but
Go ahead. I love that scene.
the
That's one of my
reason
favorites.
why I love the melody and Phoebe so much, because I think it's a through line that's been there since the first one, just on little tiny lines, right? Because in the first movie, Ray is talking to Winston and he's like, "Do you believe in God? You
Right.
know, like, are we Christian? Like,
Right.
is this a real thing?"
Yeah.
And then that I can't, not that joke is paid off, but it kind of is me. He's like, "Are you a god?" No, and then they
Yeah.
get blasted, right? Then that joke is revisited in Afterlife, where Phoebe, this new character, has trouble connecting with anyone,
Yeah.
right? Like living people, she can't connect with her mom, her
Mm-hmm.
brother, and certainly not like this new town that like she doesn't know
Which is so
anybody.
mean to podcast because clearly they're friends.
But it takes
What,
someone like
his,
podcast and
his
you get
friendship
like
doesn't matter to her. Okay. She has to remove her entire soul from her body. Podcast isn't good enough to be her friend.
I mean,
But, like-
I thought they were hinting that Podcast and her would get together in Afterlife through
Yeah, for sure.
through the way they deal with people. I definitely think it was Golden Retriever like podcasts, but I'm okay with them not getting together in this one because it is what it is. Sometimes puppy love is just that whatever. A crush is
Yeah, but
they're
clearly,
they're the
hinting
new
that
they're the new Ray and Egon relationship. That's
Okay.
what they are, you know? And so when they have the whole movie, who is the first ghost that tries to contact her? Her grandfather, right? Who's the only person that can actually think on her level or can relate to her, right? And then she meets the ghost who's her grandfather. So she has there's a through line of like not Egon's, but Spangler's having trouble connecting with people. Like her mom has trouble connecting with Paul Rudd, right?
Mm-hmm.
But can deal with ghosts very efficiently and can think that through. So when you get to the park bench,
she goes to the park to play chess because she's looking for her grandfather. She's hoping her grandfather is still out there.
I don't think
That's
she's
why she
specifically
goes.
looking for her grandfather, but
I mean, she goes to play chess, which is how they connected in the first movie. Yeah. And then when Melanie shows up, she looks disappointed. She's like, "Oh."
Well, she saw it moving at first, and then she thought of her grandfather, and then Melody pops up.
That's right.
But was she going to play with her grandfather, or was she?
Why else should she go alone?
I don't know.
Because they have trouble connecting with people.
Well, why is she going to play chess alone? Is she going to play chess against herself, or is she kind of hoping?
I think Phoebe Spangler was going to play chess against herself. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the question: whose chess set is it in Afterlife?
It's Egon's.
It's Egon's chess set.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Same chess set.
Okay.
Presumably.
What was I saying?
That they have trouble connecting with people. Yeah. So she meets this ghost and she connects with this ghost.
Yes. And so you have her Spangler having a relationship with the ghost that she's supposed to be busting. And then there's the beautiful scene at Ray's shop where he talks about Ray, have you ever thought about being a ghost? And
right.
In my interpretation of that moment, Ray thinks about, are you a god? Are you a Christian? Or this is thing, and he thinks about his conversations with those three moments, and he thinks, yeah, I think about it every day. I think about like what I would be like, what I would materialize, what would bring me here. You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't that be the greatest experience in the world, right?
Right.
You can only have once, and then it's interrupted. And then that idea is, what if there was a way to come back from being a ghost? And that's how the melody thing happens, right?
Okay.
A way to connect with someone that she's always like, that she has trouble connecting with. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's also a crush and queer love, right?
Yeah.
And I know that I know that people are gonna watch this movie. It's the most obtuse people that are like, no, they're just like really good friends. They're just like She just wants to like hang out with her friends.
It's shot very romantic. One of the things I really loved about Frozen Empire is how many shots seemed like references to 80s cinematography. Everything with the Garaka, every time the way his eyes glow, how much it looked like practicals that you would see in an 80s movie. The whole scene where the two ghost girls are about to kiss and how much it looks like The Exorcist or something. Like, I thought so much of it, there were so many really beautiful shots.
Possessor kind of does the poltergeist thing in the TV, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a poltergeist reference for sure.
I thought you were going to say that there was like a 16 Candles element to Melody and Phoebe.
There is a little bit. I watched it and I was like, oh, the Judas Contract, right? Because I come from a superhero background, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's very clearly Deathstroke and Terra, very specifically, right?
Problematic much. But I want to shout out Ginger Snark. Ginger Snark says she went to move the piece herself before Melody grabbed it. She definitely planned on playing alone.
Oh, okay.
That's what Ginger Snark says. So,
I'll take Ginger Snark's word for it.
Ginger Snark just...
But not Justin.
I'll just be a ghost. It's fine.
I think that like, yeah, this is a person who has trouble connecting with humans. So the fact that she's connected with Egon and in a familial way, and then now a romantic way with Melody, she's not trying to spend the rest of her life as a ghost. I think that would be illogical. But the fact is, like, could she get her first kiss from a ghost? Like, is this the way that, like, this person that she, and it's a person, it's not a concept of a ghost. Right,
it's not a Slimer, it's not
a possessor,
a dragon.
You know, it's this it's not a concept, it's a human being. She's seeing it as it's a human being. How can I connect with her physically by not being physical? You get what I mean?
Yeah, I just think there could have been a little more connective tissue between, hey, we're friends with each other, to I need to be on the same plane of existence with you so we can bone down, or we can kiss.
Where whatever. We can kiss. But I also think that they were shying away. They were shying away from being 100% like saying, I agree. Right?
I agree. I think it's such an extreme reaction to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to kill myself for a couple of minutes. We're all cool with that, right?
That's Phoebe, though.
Yeah, I know, but
Phoebe is not like a normal person. That's the character.
I'm with you. I just think there could have been some more textual or connective tissue for me for that story.
Ginger Snark says for science.
For science, yeah. For science.
I think there was one thing that I would cut. One scene that I really wanted gone. I wish that the scene where Melody is walking down the street was cut. Because
where it becomes obvious that she's working for Garaka.
Yes, I was like, no, don't tell me, don't spell it out for me. Come on, man.
Oh, okay.
Like, come on. And I think the reveal of her like betraying Phoebe would have hit like a truck. Oh my gosh, if that was the case, because she says
I'll agree with that.
Why she did it while like she's betraying Phoebe. But I was like,
I think that's a good note.
Like, that would have been great. But back to the character I would cut, what's her name? Janine, I think her name.
Oh.
Because I think this is something I learned. I don't think that she's Phoebe's grandma.
No, she's not.
Not.
I thought she was. I was like, wait, was she her ex's children? Grandchildren?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know did she and Egon actually ever get together?
They dated. I thought they got married.
When did they get together?
Because in the afterlife, she visits the house, right? And then I think, oh, that's your mom. That's probably like
a secret mom? No,
not secret mom, but like I guess Carrie Coon's mom. Egon got with someone else. I was like, dang, okay, Egon, I see you. Okay.
Ginger Snark says, funny enough, that she missed that scene you were just saying because she went to the bathroom. So then it did hit like a truck.
Oh my gosh. I wish I was you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I wish I had gone to the bathroom.
At that exact
the only
time.
The only time. And plus, oh my gosh, speaking of Janine, you know what's funny though? Because she there's a scene where she's talking to Carrie Coons or Carrie Coons is talking to Phoebe, right? Mm. And like she's like, don't say it. And she's like, "Oh, you would just be a secretary if you weren't like
so fucking messed up."
And I was like, oh, are you talking about your grandmother? No,
But
no, that was just a cold hard burn by Phoebe Spangler. Jesus Christ.
answering our
Oh,
phones. That's so messed up.
Isn't that kind of
oh.
the point of this movie, though? Is that like this idea that like you have to be a scientist to be Ghostbuster? You have to, you know what I mean? Like,
Do you think that? I don't know.
well,
I don't
but
know.
no. I'm not saying that's the theme. I'm saying the theme is the idea that that is not true, right? That
Anyone can be a Ghostbuster.
then anyone can be a Ghostbuster, right? That you're setting up this, like Phoebe has it in her mind that like if it
The question is then, what is it that makes a Ghostbuster? Like, if you don't have to be a scientist, like, what is it? Is it belief in the afterlife? Is it bravery and heart and loyalty and family? Like, what is the thing that make you a Ghostbuster?
I would say the theme of this is family, right? Like, I mean, I'm not saying I agree with like family makes it, and I don't mean blood family, but there's also the bonds that we make.
There's definitely a found family in this movie.
Yeah, I would say that's the theme of the movie. That's what they're.
There can be more than one theme.
Right.
There were a lot of
going for it.
I think they really had a lot of themes in this movie, and I thought that a lot of them worked. But I do think it was, in the end, a little overstuffed.
Yeah.
And that brings me to the Kumail story. All right.
Yeah.
So here's where I'm at with that story, because I really liked Kumail. I thought he added a lot. I actually wanted him a little bit more connected, even. Once we learned about the Fire Masters and he starts like fire bending and doing all that, like that's when my eyes started rolling. And I was like, why am I feeling this thing of like, okay, this feels like a hat on a hat, or it feels a little too far or a little too cartoony or magical or whatever. And I was like thinking to myself, like, this is a franchise with ghosts. Like, why would that feel weird to me? And I think it's the thing I mentioned that Bob Chipman talks about, that the solution to problems in this universe, the problems are supernatural, right? We have ghosts and demons and gods and all of these crazy things, but that the solutions are man-made. that is like part of the essence of what makes Ghostbusters work. So here's what I would have done had I been writing or directing it. The note I would have given is, as they're going into the archaeology of it and learning like, all the pre-Sumerian, like what were these fire masters? What were they doing? I would have had Ray find out what the ancient technology was, or Phoebe could find out what the ancient technology is.
Bronze,
or whatever it is, but it's got to be some mechanism that they do, some trigger method. Bronze triggered by heat or whatever it is. That it wouldn't just be fire bending. That it's his birthright as his family, and his family has this tradition, but that it would be something mechanical in nature as opposed to a superpower, just like firebending, and that he could become a Ghostbuster that like specializes in this side of things, and he's the fire master and all of that. But I would have had it be like human ingenuity that is the thing that beats the god, even if it's some human ingenuity introduced by Kumail, as opposed to just firebending.
I mean, it would take a little bit more writing, but I agree. Like, what was the contraption that they used in the olden times, right? Like,
Right.
Was it, I'm just making stuff up, a bronze,
Thing,
like jar?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But then the bait is your love for your family, and then he's like, I hate love, let me come towards you, and then like, bleh, whatever. Or there's some sort of trap that they do, like old-timey puller.
An old-timey version of a ghost trap, yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Right, they could have had, they could have found another orb, an empty version, an orb, that traps him, and he gets retrapped in the orb, and you're like, okay, now this is us learning about this, like, ancient clockwork technology, and kind of like an Atlantis or Indiana Jones kind of way,
Or yeah. Okay.
That's what I would have done with it, but I don't know. What do you think, Justin?
I liked it. I have a lot of thoughts. I liked it. I really did, because number one, haven't won Kumail Nanjiani in a Ghostbusters movie forever. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna let my fan brain drive on this.
You're exactly right about having him in the movie. He was one of the best parts.
But also, I have always thought that the Ghostbusters are not superheroes, and I think this is a weird tangent, but like in my opinion, superheroes don't work when they become cops. They need to be more like firefighters, right? And the Ghostbusters also need to be firefighters, but Ghostbusters are not superheroes, if that makes any sense. I don't know. So
I'm
when the
not sure I
movie,
agree with you, but
so that's okay. You don't have to agree with me.
no, I'm trying to like work it out.
Yeah.
In a way that like Ghostbusters come when you call, like in a fire department. They put out the fire, they make sure you're safe, and there isn't like the inherent danger of policing you in the way that police do, right? And I think
Sure.
superheroes should also fall into that trap, right? Not
Yeah.
trap, but fall into that category. And
Yeah.
so when the movie started with you see
So
the
then
iconic
how are Ghostbusters not
firehouse,
superheroes? If
because I
superheroes are
think
firefighters and Ghostbusters are firefighters,
no, I
it's,
think I don't I okay. I think superheroes should be more like firefighters and not cops. I don't
okay.
think Ghostbusters are superheroes. I think they should be more like firefighters.
And you don't
But
think that they are currently.
I think they became more like firefighters in this one.
Okay.
And that's why I liked so saying that, seeing the iconic firehouse in the beginning and seeing like an old timey fire truck, and I was like, wow, what a weird way like to trip me up right in the beginning of the movie, right? And you see these firefighters not equipped to handle the situation, right? And they get like frozen and stuff like that, right? So when it comes to like this and this movie and Kumail Nanjiani, like another popular idea in the Ghostbusters community, be like, what would be the next Ghostbusters? Like someone should be a psychic, you know? In the way that like what do other countries or what do other states do if they don't have a Ghostbusters team? Go apparently according to Ghosts, like I don't know, Ghostbusters, where Ghosts have been around forever.
Yeah.
What did you do? Did everyone just move? Someone has had to have had a way to get rid of these things, right? And so I love the idea of someone being of a culture who had Ghostbusting, but in a different way, right? And then there's the scene where Finn and Paul Rudd are in the kitchen and they're trying to get rid of that like ghost, and he pulls the proton blast away. And I was like, oh, that's so clever. That's such a clever way to meld those two ideas, right? Like a power of a time where they could ghost bust in a different way that isn't so scientifical. It's challenging the idea of Ghostbusters that I really enjoyed, right? Maybe ghosts aren't all that bad. Maybe science isn't the only solution. Maybe busting isn't the only solution. So I think it blended in with those ideas. That being said, honest critique of the movie, could it have been paced a little bit better? Yes, I do think this movie has a little bit of hiccups in pacing, right? Like, I don't need the melody thing scene explained to me, right? I don't need the scene of him trying to like move the candle several times, because I think if you remove that, the proton blast scene hits harder because he hasn't been able to do it like at all lately, you know? And so I liked it. What can I say?
I mean, I liked seeing different cultures and whatnot because mostly in the beginning, like Ghostbusters 1 and 2, one specifically, right, with Gozer and everything, they mention that he's from a different culture, but we don't really explore that. It's just like he's from a different culture. Where are we going? Also, I think it's interesting that Ghostbusters deals a lot with demons and extra dimensional entities than it does with ghosts. Like the big bads are never ghosts; they're demons, right? Like Gozer.
Yeah, because ghosts are your sort of like garden variety. I mean, that's why I want to push back at your idea of like they're not superheroes, because I feel like part of the structure of the first movie is that they really go out of their way to establish all of these like superhero tropes. And you got to remember, in 1984 when the movie was made, like your biggest reference for superheroes was probably the 60s Batman show or maybe the Richard Donner Superman movie, right? Like superheroes were not as ubiquitous as they are now. And so like there were sort of tropes of superheroes, right? A superhero has their special car and their special headquarters and their special equipment and their special sidekick and their special costume. And this was like the accoutrement of like the visual stuff that makes a Ghostbuster. And once you get to the cartoon, it's so obvious of like, these are the Ghostbusters. They have the Ecto-1 and the firehouse, and they have their sidekick Slimer, and they have this costume and their special equipment, their proton packs, right? And it's like it fits very specifically into like a Batman team mode.
I'm gonna throw a wrench into this idea, by the way, really quick. A-Team, the A-Team came out in 1983, and I'm not saying this is the A-Team, but I'm saying that it doesn't have to be a superhero thing. There were no superhero team movies back then, right? We got the Batman,
there hadn't.
Right? But what we did have was action team movies.
I agree with you. That's not the point I'm making.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is there's a lot of accoutrement. There's a lot of like references to what a superhero is in terms of like making it toyetic. And if this is a movie that wasn't planned, it wasn't supposed to be a kid's movie. All of that stuff is really weird to put into the movie if it's not that. Like, it really has the structure of a superhero origin.
No, because
like, in a way, like
Ghostbusters has always been IP franchise. You know, they've always wanted to sell the lunch boxes, and they make fun of themselves in Ghostbusters too, right?
Yeah, but this is when it but they didn't know
they're not super.
They didn't know it was going to be for kids. Like, there's so many people who look at this movie and they're like, "Oh, this falls more into the category of a Meatballs, a Stripes, a Police Academy than it does anything else." And this is why I think they're wrong. I think that it's meant to be a superhero story, and it really fits this superhero origin. It's a weird structure because it kind of matches the structure of like Batman Begins. Right, where like
I don't know about that.
It does because they're
disagree. I'm gonna let you. If you love that idea, I love that idea.
Well, let me just finish the thought. Because they go through and they specifically explain where they get all of this stuff, but it's before you know that those are the trappings of what a Ghostbuster is. There's a whole like, hey, we found this old ambulance, we're gonna fix it up and turn it into the Ecto-1. And in any other movie, it's like, why is that important to know?
Because cars are cool, man. Is James Bond a superhero?
Huh?
Is James Bond a superhero?
James Bond is a superhero.
We're using superhero very loosely, I think. I would say,
a superhero is a character that saves the world and has like specific tropes around them of like the things that happen in every adventure, or at least that's what it was. You know,
I think we're saying heroes, right? In that
they're heroes.
sense.
They have super science and super cool technology and super cool car. Doesn't mean they are superheroes.
And I would compare Ghostbusters more to A-Team. Just I'm going for my own thing. It's A-Team if A-Team had a logo. Other than
A-Team does have a logo.
I know it has like A-Team. A-Team.
You know what?
They have a cool van. They got a headquarters that they like.
Yeah, I'm not against the idea. I'm not against the idea that the A-Team is a superhero idea either. Because it's also, but this stuff comes from comics and pulp ideas. These like old radio shows and whatever. It comes from like The Shadow and all of these things of like where every single week the hero's going to have a conversation with their equipment guy, and they're going to have a conversation with, they have to solve the mystery in this and this such and such a way, and every episode is the same thing.
Is Sherlock Holmes a superhero?
Okay.
I don't know. I think that the Sherlock Holmes has become that in our like modern whatever. I don't know that in its initial thing it was.
So I would say if we expand the idea of what a superhero thing is, sure. But I think that the Ghostbusters franchise is not beholden to our modern ideas of what like superheroes are, but rather
I'm talking about the very first movie. I'm talking about that very first movie and the structure of it, and it's really weird that they go in trying to establish these things: a headquarters, a car, a sidekick, all of these things.
Because they like money.
And Slimer wasn't the sidekick. Slimer.
What do you think they're doing to get the money? I mean, you're putting the cart before the horse. They do it to get the money. The writers do it to get the money by using superhero tropes. I don't know why the two things can't exist at the same time. I don't know what they want money as an argument against what I'm saying.
Is there a superhero IP that's comparable that came out before then that we can, because my big problem with this understanding is that like there aren't.
I'm gonna say Batman
teams.
I would say Batman or even James Bond, right? Because it is like, oh, there is specifically a headquarters. It's a car. Like when people in the early '80s thought of superhero,
yeah,
it was Green Hornet and Batman. That was like sort of the biggest things at the time. Maybe the Hulk or whatever, but it was Batman. It was Green Arrow, and it's very specifically a car, a headquarters, a specific kind of equipment.
Yeah.
Right. Like Batman has his utility belt and like very specific equipment that is Batman equipment that James Bond wouldn't use. Right.
I can see. Okay. I think we're all coming at it from different angles of like what is
same thing.
What is it a superhero? Is it more specific or is it more general, right? Because like I think that's like maybe this harkens back to like old Pulp Fiction sort of narratives where there's a team of investigators. I mean, I think a team of investigators that are trying to stop Cthulhu from coming back into our thing. By the way,
I know those references that Dan Aykroyd had, right? He was looking at old like Ghost Hunters movies and things where even like there's a cartoon where like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck are the Ghostbusters or whatever.
Yeah.
And remember, the reason that Ghostbusters almost wasn't called Ghostbusters is because that name was tied up in IP from Filmation.
With that big gorilla and the car.
The gorilla.
Yeah, there was like a ghost.
Which, by the way, is the cartoon version of a TV movie from the 70s starring some comedians and a gorilla. It's crazy.
Yeah, so we're gonna divert from this
sure.
this conversation just a little bit. But did we have favorite moments in this movie? Like, what were moments in this movie that really stood out to you as like, holy shit?
Please go ahead.
Oh, I love the scene with Ray and Phoebe talking about how much he wants to be a ghost. Oh, beautiful. I love the scene in the stairwell with Ray and Winston.
Mm-hmm.
And Ray has this, I think, I can't say the line directly. He's like, what can I do if I can't do what I've loved? Who am I if I can't do what I love? You know what I mean? Everything with Ray Stantz,
so
beautiful, good. Amazing. Winston, when he's almost about to cuss out Phoebe, he's like, "You put us all in danger, don't you know?" He's like, "I was trying to save someone." He's like, "You got to do it safely, my guy." And Winston, when they have the problem of like, "Oh, how are we supposed to like, move the trap? We've been trying to figure this out." And remember, one of Winston's first scenes is him getting introduced to the red trap. Right. And so he's like, I know how to fix that. Oh, my little fan heart sword. And then we go to his own private Ghostbusters team. I can't. I'm so sorry. Because like one of the things I didn't like about Afterlife, because it relies on the idea like, oh, these guys weren't friends. They're like just like the Mythbusters. Jamie did not like Adam Savage and all those. They left. They were all bitter. They dissolved the business. But the fact that Winston went out of his way to keep the dream alive, the last one in, he's gonna be the last one out. And he kept going. And oh my gosh. And I made a black Ghostbuster suit before it was cool. I'm just saying. I had the gear logo and everything. And I'm so glad that I did. Because now we know that they're the little Zedmore team. The fact that there's two different Ghostbusters, like a Manhattan team and a
where are they? Upstate? Where are they? Where's the ghost?
Are they? I'm so sorry to anyone who lives in New York. No? I'm so sorry because they have to cross the bridge to get back to the mainland. But I can't think of what that is. It Manhattan?
They said what it was. So they said they're out in like Brooklyn, at like the Brooklyn Aquarium, the abandoned aquarium or something.
Yes, and so like
it's in Brooklyn or Queens somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, what a wonderful idea. What a beautiful, like, I loved it. I loved when Paul Rudd is talking through the door at Phoebe. It's such a cliche, very cliche moment. It happens in Spider-Verse too, but my little heart broke. Oh my gosh, he just wants to connect with us.
See, that's a good example of even like I bring this up when characters die, or if you know a character is going to be brought back, it doesn't matter to me. I care about what the character does in what they think are their last moments, right? So Paul Rudd speaking through the door to me doesn't. I don't. I still buy that as a scene, even though I know she's not on the other side, because in his mind that is real. So what does it mean to him? Even if it doesn't connect with somebody because they're not on the other side, like it is still real, right? I like that. I like that sort of thing.
Excuse me. So I loved all the new ideas in this movie. I love the Manhattan Adventure Society. Genius. What a fun concept.
Group of rich assholes.
Yeah.
I like that beginning scene. Like the firefighters don't die, and the fire master doesn't die, and but who dies?
All the rich dicks.
Those rich colonial dicks that stole things from other countries and decided to play with it like they owned it.
Yeah.
They died. They shattered. Ooh,
what a fun scene. Who that's still cranking? Creepy. Like actually creepy. But yeah, I loved all those. I loved when people got to be people. I loved it. And that's so weird to say, but weirdly, it's a new concept in Ghostbusters IP when humans act human.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You know, because in the original, it's funny. It's supposed to be like a laugh. And I give Venkman a lot of shit because he's a character that doesn't go through an arc and they don't really learn anything. But like when he's there, he's there. And in this movie, when he's there, he's there. And I know for a fact, that they only had Bill Murray for a week. You can tell. I get it. We all know Bill Murray's weird filming schedule and weird ways to call him. You have to practically give a smoke signal 2 to 3 business years ahead of time just to get a hold of Bill Murray.
Wait, why does he like what else is it like why?
Because
he's just particular? He
looks terrible now.
Bill Murray is
not aged well.
Weirdly really rich because he kind of like got the Ghostbusters, became Garfield for a minute, and just kind of pieced out, right? He doesn't have to act to make money, right?
Yeah.
And so if you want Bill Murray to be in your movie, you have to call him, leave a voice message on your answering machine about your concept of your movie and how to reach you. And he maybe, if he's feeling good that day, he might return your call.
Okay.
That's how you get Bill Murray to move.
I don't think that's probably true of Dan Aykroyd. He's known Dan Aykroyd since the 70s. Dan probably has his number, or at least his email.
I mean, I can tell you right now that Bill Murray just checked in and checked out, but they used him wisely because he comes in. He's like, when you first see him, he does this test, and like I said before, when Venkman's on, he's on, right?
But that climax took at least 2 weeks to film.
Maybe
they shot out his exact shots.
All of his scenes are in the same spot.
Yeah, he's just standing in the same spot. You're right.
Yeah.
And
maybe they shot him out first, but I would guess that took a good 7 to 8 working days to shoot that last bit.
For him, and he had sunglasses on. He was probably reading his lines on the cue card.
That's so funny.
Like, let's be real. And so I think.
Oh, by the way, can we talk about like the CG in this movie was great? There was not a moment of like bad CG in the whole thing.
Solid. I loved it. Oh my gosh,
because there was a lot of practical. I think
there was a ton of practical, especially Slimer, the puppet hand grabbing the Cheetos. I was like, oh my god, that's a real puppet. And like, I think there was a ton of puppet work in this movie.
It was kind of cute, right? Slimer was kind of cute.
Great. He's Slimer. He's always been cute.
I don't know. Slimer.
Are you trying to fuck a ghost?
No,
are you trying to pull a Phoebe Spangler?
No.
Dimithri?
Look, I already said the librarian. She gets first dibs.
The librarian goes, ah! That's the one you like.
I mean, I was gonna say a joke. No, it's inappropriate.
She's topless. You know, she's.
Is she topless?
No.
When she goes, ah!
Topless.
You can see everything.
All the bones.
What I was gonna say. What was I gonna say now? What did I say? Slimer is cute. Well, because in the original movie, Slimer is just this gluttonous ghost, and he's not really cute until the cartoon. Like the cartoon makes him cute and family friendly and like boopity boop. you know? And like that's the Slimer I remember is Slimer from the High C Ecto Cooler. Like that's the Slimer I remember. And in this one he was kind of cute. He was still kind of ugly, but in a cute way, which is
They made him look slightly more like the cartoon version.
Yeah.
He had the yellow eyes, you know, instead of like the beady little eyes.
Yeah.
So it, like very specifically looked like the cartoon version. As far as like moments I loved, I have to completely agree with Justin. All of the quiet moments. We were talking about moments we loved from the first movie, and one of my very favorite scenes in that whole first movie is Ray and Winston crossing the bridge, right? It's maybe the dead have been rising from the grave. You ever think that maybe, you know, that whole like, do you believe in the book of Revelation? That whole conversation. And that's such a great moment, and I felt like there were so many moments in this movie that were like that. All of the quiet moments, the scenes between Phoebe and Melody were amazing. I loved the Paul Rudd and Carrie Coons when he like is reciting the Ghostbusters song at her was actually super cute. Yeah, all of the interpersonal moments I thought really really worked. I loved Kumail as a character. Yeah, I loved Patton Oswalt. Honestly, I thought Patton was going to join at the end. I thought he was going to join the team.
I hope not. Like,
why not? I thought he worked.
Not everybody needs to join the team, but
everyone needs to join the team, Dimithri.
People can do their specific thing. Like I like
these are they're like, Ghostbusters. Everyone can be a Ghostbuster.
Anyone can be a Ghostbuster.
Family. This is Fast and Furious.
Family.
Everyone joins the family.
Well, the idea like that the Men in Black, when the Men in Black, like in the movie, they go to Jeeves, right? They go to Jeeves for specific information. They go to Frank for specific information. They, you know what I mean? Like I like this idea that like Patton Oswalt exists in that, and he might be a good source of information.
Right, but he doesn't have to be a Ghostbuster. That's fair.
Kind of like how I feel like Kumail. I liked Kumail as that con man that may have access to things outside his realm of like understanding. Like he's
Remember,
just like
Peter's a con man too. Like Peter becomes a parapsychologist because it's the easiest because it's a weird ass major for him to do in college.
Yeah.
And he runs into these two nerds and it's like, I can make money off of these guys.
Yeah.
That's why he becomes the third Ghostbuster. He doesn't give a shit about being a psychologist.
And he wants fame.
They were friends. Him and Ray were friends.
And then Ray were friends, but he also like he's using his position to sleep with undergrads.
Right.
No. The joke only works if he knows what he's talking about. That's the genius of Venkman, right? Because in that scene, he says, "I'm testing the powers of negative reinforcement on ESP," and you think it's
it doesn't take a lot to know the words negative reinforcement in ESP.
But the kid
clearly has a doctorate.
The kid that he's testing on, right?
He knows his stuff, is what you're saying.
He knows his stuff, right?
Sure.
But whether he's willing to put it to practice,
but he's not a believer. The whole point of Venkman as a character is he's not a believer. He doesn't start out being like, you know, he's not as spazzy in Ray and Egon. He's there because he's like, oh, I see the potential, the money making potential in this, and he never really changes from that. You know, any other movie, any other franchise would have been like, I'm not a believer, and then by the end, after he meets a literal god, would have been like, okay, maybe all this stuff is real. There's never a moment like that for Venkman. You know, he's just always him, which is just always like snarky dude who's like, yeah, let's have some fun here, you know?
Right.
He doesn't go through a crisis of do I believe or do I don't believe? Like he doesn't have an arc, you know?
Well, he almost doesn't care, right? Like it's really how it affects the world. It doesn't matter about the world above or the world below. It's just like, how does this affect me?
Right.
In a, you know, you could say it's a selfish way or it's a more practical way of, you know.
I mean, it's not like he's a bad person. Clearly he cares about Dana, right? He
is unethical, but
he's unethical, but he does care about her. He doesn't want her to be a dog. He doesn't want the world to end. He's still fighting with the good guys. There's never a moment where he's like, you know, tempted by fame and fortune to become a bad guy, but it's not super clear that he's like, you know, he's still doing it. He's still going to hand the bill off to the city.
Right.
Like, hey, we took care of this ghost for you. Here, pay us our $100,000 for it, you know?
Speaking of the city, the one guy, Walter Peck, is mayor now.
Yeah, that was a little silly to me.
he's mayor, and also they try to make him more unreasonable, right? Because in the original one, is he kind of reasonable? Like
He's right. He's right in the first movie.
Here's the thing with Walter Peck. He's not right because he shuts the machine off.
You're right.
Yeah.
He's stupid, but he's right that they are, holding this unlicensed thing, and all they had to do was like kind of be honest about it and show how it works. And hey, it'd be really dangerous if this got turned off. Instead, he's just like, just shut it down. I'm not going to do a study on what it would be like if you shut it down.
Because they're a private organization. And so when
Yeah.
it comes to this movie, I thought Walter Peck had a few good points.
Yeah, it's
He
good
had the
points in the first
line
one
where he's
too.
like, we don't let kids become cops. Why would we let them become Ghostbusters? And I was like, well, shit. I was
Right.
like, that's a good point. But I think that one day, hopefully, if the Ghostbusters franchise continues, they become a public sector thing. I think that'd be cool to see, so that they're around forever, you know?
I mean,
But
there would have to be regulators, right? Like people, like OSHA has to come in, right? Like
we all know that fire pole is not OSHA regulated.
Well, not now that it's chopped in half. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that is what definitely what you were getting at about like what Aykroyd's original vision was. Like he wanted it to be sort of this like the original concept of Ghostbusters that is it spans all these different planets and like our story was going to be about this small group of ragtag, the losers of this international or intergalactic Ghostbusters franchise.
Wait,
and
there's supposed to be an intergalactic Ghostbusters?
that was like the original idea. It was like an interplanetary thing.
Is it because Dan Aykroyd's kind of weird in his?
Kinda, yeah. Apparently, it was like a 400-page script or something.
He's kind of weird, right? Like he has some out there theories.
No, he just actually believes in a lot of shit.
Yeah, his family was actual like ghost hunters. That's why he like so much of the ghost busting stuff like feels so lived in because he brought lore that's actually real. I mean, quote unquote real.
Because Bust didn't make him feel good.
It sure did.
Yep.
And so, yeah, no, I agree. I think that would be a great place to take the franchise of like, hey, they've become this public sector thing and now it's overregulated and like, what does it now mean to be a ghost? But that would be an amazing like next movie to be like, hey, it kind of has been pulled out of the original Ghostbusters control and now it's being controlled by like some entity that doesn't fully believe in it or some entity that corrupts it in some way, and like the actual Ghostbusters have to get back together and like wrest control of it or show the new recruits what it really means to be a Ghostbuster. All of that stuff I think would be great places to take the franchise next.
As we're talking about the future, I mean, so far, Ghostbusters has made like 45 million this weekend.
It's not a huge hit, but
it's not huge, but it's not something to like.
It's bigger than expected, which is awesome.
Right, because Afterlife, I think, did less, right?
Afterlife came out right before COVID? No.
So
wait, hold on.
The franchise just passed 1 billion. But so far, nobody knows whether there's going to be a sequel or not. But I think there would be. There wouldn't be any reason to, or not to make a sequel to this.
2021, oof. We were still deep in COVID. Oof.
Yeah.
Movies weren't like fully back then. So
yeah, I mean, it's really hard to compare with this, landscape. But I think it's safe to say there'd be a sequel to this, right?
It depends, because in the first one they had, I kind of love, but I also slightly hate that they have to have some sort of like reverent object from the movies, like the Afterlife. It's all about the car, baby. You love the car. It's the best car in the world. I was like, I like the car, but it's not like, the best car in the world.
Yeah.
And this one was all about like, what was it? The firehouse. You love that. We have to protect the firehouse. We have to use the elements of the firehouse to beat like the final ghost.
Right.
I thought that was clever. So if there's a third one, I'm gonna put money on it. What if it's like, guys, we have to protect the proton pack IP. your father Egon built this with
Right.
like 2 scraps and a box of nails or some shit.
Does Janine have a hand blaster?
She did.
They set that up early. They set that up with Lucky testing it out in the Ghost Core warehouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they set it up, and also I think that was a little bit of a connection to the 2016 Ghostbusters, because I think they had technology like that in that
They
movie.
had hand blasters.
They really
too.
updated the technology in the 2016 one. Like, it was cool. It was cool looking. Like, you know.
Sure.
I think what's her name? Kate McKinnon's character had like dual. She was like
Dual like pistols, yeah.
Yeah.
But remember, it didn't track logically because it like blew up the ghosts, and the question was like, so did you kill the
Right.
ghost? Like what happens when these ghosts get like blasted apart? Do they come back together after that? Are they now like dead? Do they cross over to heaven? All of that stuff. So
they cross, like they're helping them cross over.
they're helping them cross over by shooting them in the head. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay.
You know what I really liked about the 2016 movie was some of the design of the ghosts, because it kind of looked like it was blending, like just the people marching down the street, like they were in blue, but it blended a little bit of like Dia de los Muertos design with a little bit of like New Orleans, like March, like Mardi Gras kind of design. I thought it was like really beautiful, the designs of those ghosts.
I don't remember it, and it makes me want to watch it again. I know that's not a a common belief, but like my mom really likes the actresses in this, so I'm like, maybe I just watch it again and I just show my mom. I'm just like, all right. By the way, these characters pop up in the comics, because in the comics they do multiversal crossovers between.
It's interesting, yeah.
The characters from the cartoon and the comics and the Answer the Call 2016 verse and the movies.
And the Ninja Turtles, by the way.
Yeah, and then the Ninja Turtles. They do like a bunch of like different crossovers. And so supposedly I think what they said in the comics is that when they crossed the streams originally in the first Ghostbusters movie, that fractured one universe into many. That's what I think the comics say.
I don't remember.
The original, like that the explosion when they defeat Gozer created the Ghostbusters multiverse.
You know what I wish they would have done? I hate rewriting movies. I hate it so much. I hate it. I wish Ghostbusters 2016 changed nothing. Just like keep it. And then in this third movie, I think Phoebe's gonna ask like Ray or Winston, like, wait, did we have a trademark on this? We tried, but some randos in 2016 stole our trademark for like a year, and then we sued them to oblivion or something. Like,
but the actors make an appearance in that movie. Are you saying that movie's canon or not canon? It's just
I say we just.
I think that would confuse things so much. That would be like
so
worse than the X-Men, universe.
Hey, if the X-Men didn't care about like different, I think it's
but that's why they went off the rails, because no one could track, what fucking year we were in, because no one aged from decade to decade.
I mean, I think there are worse mistakes in the movie. Just say like, oh yeah, then we had the FBI informant them, and then we had to wear a wire and pretend to be other people. Anyway.
Like I'm definitely on board with them bringing in those actors.
I'm just saying, if like Kate McKinnon came, like, I wouldn't be upset. I'm like, you know what? Forget about it. Like, I love that character. I love her character design. I love her energy. Yeah, fine. Let's do it.
I wouldn't mind if they did what they did kind of with Kylie in the comics. Basically, Kylie is a character from Extreme Ghostbusters, but in the comics, she's just. It's a different universe, so she is herself, and she's interested in the paranormal, but she does.
She's a different person.
Yeah, she's a different, person.
She has a different job, and
so
she works for Ray's bookstore, and
it wouldn't be. I wouldn't hate the idea of like bringing in those actresses from that, but have them be this universe's same names, but this universe's variants of these. I don't know.
I'd take Kate McKinnon. Put her in the Zedmore group.
Yeah.
The Manhattan sect. Not sect. How do you
sect?
Ghostbusters Manhattan.
It's a branch.
I think it was Ghost Corps. I think that's what they were doing.
Well, Ghost Corps is the name of the production company, but
and I think
did they actually say the name of this Ghost Corps?
The engineering division. I think they call it
the engineering division.
So if Kate McKinnon is a part of the engineering division, I wouldn't be upset. I'd be like, that's great.
But you
That's
have
there's
to
any
explain.
reason.
You have to explain that it's a variant, though. Like you have to explain it's a different continuity. Otherwise, it gets confusing.
Who cares?
I care.
You care?
I do.
Okay.
Well, I'm not saying I care so wholeheartedly. I just don't want people to be like, oh, so the events happened. Like it would just be like, oh, this character, it's her first time. She's never met all you have to say is she's never met a ghost. Like, and they're like, really? In 2026, you've never met a ghost? And then that, like, you know what I mean? That kind of solves the continuity problem of like, it's 2026 and she's never met a ghost. Obviously, that part is not, like, that movie didn't happen in this continuity.
Just put her in the engineering division. What's her name? Jillian Holtzman. She can be Jillian G. Holtzman. There you go.
Do the Peter B. Parker situation?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it does not matter that much.
Yeah. Where do we see this going? I know we were talking about this. I'm throwing out something. How would you guys feel if there were 2 series?
2 series of Ghostbusters? What do you mean?
Like one exploring like more of the ghost horror, new characters, and one exploring the family. I don't know. I'm throwing something out. This movie seemed a little bit packed with the amount of characters and the amount of things going on. Would it be better like to split this into 2 different kind of stories that we can tell?
So if I was a evil Hollywood producer,
evil, okay.
Oh yes, evil, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna milk this franchise for all I can. And then Dan Aykroyd's gonna come to me like, wait, no, it's a very fragile IP. We can't extend it too much. And I'll slap Dan Aykroyd and then said, no, get to work. Ghostbusters LA. And then you take all the people that you did like, and it's Ghostbusters in LA. And then sell that, we put that on Netflix. And then I go over to Paramount Q, whatever it's gonna be, like Paramount Peacock, whatever it's called.
Paramount Plus.
Yeah. Ghostbusters Texas. Lone Star Ghostbusters. I think the idea, and what I'm trying to say is I think it can work. Make it a streaming series, put them in an entirely different location. And Afterlife proved that having Ghostbusters not in New York is not a terrible idea, right? Give us a new car, give us new designs, bring back old Ghostbusters from previous movies,
Rick Moranis needs to come back.
Rick Moranis lives in LA.
Also, where the hell was Dana?
Dana?
She was in the end credit scene last time, right?
Yeah, but that's it.
Filming the next season of Defenders.
She's probably keeping herself warm in her apartment, I'm guessing.
She's like, nope, I'm not dealing with this again.
Well, she's definitely not a Ghostbuster. Like,
wait, no.
Janine being a Ghostbuster makes sense, but Dana just isn't.
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I have a pitch. Oh my gosh. Unless
the Ghostbusters need a cellist for some reason.
Wait. I had a brain blast. I'm so sorry. Right. All right. So this movie comes out. Frozen Empire comes out. Ghostbusters LA comes out. Right. And the third movie is bringing those 2 teams together. Right. And maybe Dana's son from Ghostbusters 2 is on Ghostbusters LA.
I mean, that's definitely been one of the pitches. I read that script, I think, where it's about Oscar, like, becoming the next generation of Ghostbuster.
I don't like that.
Oh my gosh, Oscar versus Phoebe, and
why don't you like that?
Okay,
I don't like how all these franchises have brought back a son, and it tends to be a son, and not even a daughter, but a son to then take Picard. Come on, man.
Creed.
What?
I've never seen Picard. I'm sorry.
Creed works, but
Creed works.
Picard having a son that'll then take up the roles of Picard. It's like, come on, man.
No.
Yeah.
Oscar is the villain in the third one, right? Here's my pitch.
Oh, he's the Antichrist?
Here's my pitch, right? Like Ghostbusters New York, right? They're trying to make this work. Winston's idea of opening different Ghostbusters in different parts of the country is like coming to fruition, but Ghostbusters LA is like too cool for school somehow. Like somehow they have super cool cars and super
they're
cool
the celebrities,
right?
They're more accepted.
They're more celebrities. So you have Oscar. You can put like, name a hot celebrity right now. Zendaya's Ghostbusters LA, or something like that, right?
Austin Butler. Austin
No,
Butler.
keep him away.
Austin Butler as the Ghostbusters, that would be so fun. And it's a commentary. It's a commentary on why Ghostbusters should not be like this big weird thing. I think that's a really good idea. And they're just like shitting on him the whole time. And so what happens is, oh my gosh, I need to write this down. What happens is the Ghostbusters LA are tackling like really huge ghosts, and they're taking them down really efficiently, right? And they come to New York and like, why aren't you guys as cool as us? Why can't you be like Ghostbusters LA? Because they are releasing their own ghosts and then catching them again to make them look better.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, yeah.
And so they go to New York to get more ghosts to release to make them look cool, and then they release like some big bad new ghost or whatever that's too big for them to handle, and then you have to learn that like no, ghost busting is like a real cool thing, and then we call it Ghostbusters Family Business, the end of the Afterlife show. Oh my God, someone hire me. Dan Aykroyd, are you listening to the Keeg Show right now? Oh my gosh, Bill Murray, you need to watch the Keeg Show. You're missing out on some gold mine right here. Bill Murray.
I'll let you take the franchise. That's okay. I got some other franchises I would work on, but I don't think that it would be a bad idea to have like a line of like these movies and then have like a Paramount Plus show. Some of these actors are used to TV, and I think we need to get out of our headspace of like people start in TV and move to movies, and because movies is better and that's the upward trajectory. But like McKenna Grace is amazing. Finn Wolfhard, they've done streaming stuff, they've done TV shows. Like, why wouldn't they have like a series that can kind of be in between movies? So like the Batman came out, Penguin has his show, and then we're gonna get back to the Batman #2, right? Like if Catwoman gets her own HBO show, I don't know, but like we can have like a franchise. Like a franchise is not a franchise unless you have more than just a series, you know?
Yeah, I'm down.
At the very simplest thing.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying you can mine stuff to make it a TV show.
For sure. Then you can put all your favorite comedians in and have.
That's what I would do. Like I said, I told you guys already. Like I grew up with the cartoon. I knew the cartoon first.
Yeah.
So I've never been married to the idea that it has to be Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray.
Yeah.
I've always thought like they really need to take a cue from Ninja Turtles, and every generation needs to be introduced to the same original 4 characters at the same time. Like if that's the characters you want people to know, then you have to have, a new Ghostbusters every 5 years with those 4 characters in a Ninja Turtles way. The one that I personally came up with in my head was like, hey, what if you do Teenage Ghostbusters and it's those 4 guys, but they're in high school or early college or whatever, right? So it's like the teenage adventures of Peter and Ray and Egon and Winston and whatever. Yeah. Or you can do them in the future, or you do them as like, they're traveling around the world, and it's Ghostbusters International, and every week they're in a different location in the world or whatever. But I do think that like bring it back to its animated roots. I think that is what got kids of my particular cohort into Ghostbusters, and I think that is a really great way to strengthen it as a concept and make it a little bit more pliable. Because if Ghostbusters absolutely has to be for comedians in a very specific tone that is like it's horror but not too horror, and these are the kind of stories that are Ghostbuster stories versus not Ghostbuster stories. I think everything feels too narrow, right? And you can get to a point where Ghostbusters 2 doesn't feel right, and then this doesn't feel right, and whatever. And I just think like if you have a weekly TV show, a cartoon, something that can expand the boundaries of it, then you can bring in movies that now can go in different directions, or live action TV shows or whatever, and it becomes just a more malleable, kind of like Batman, right? You can have a kid's Batman show, an adult Batman show, you can have a Matt Reeves movie and a CW show, and everything in between, and all of those things still feel like Batman, right? And I think that you could do that with Ghostbusters. You just have to be really intentional about it.
Who would you cast in the new Ghostbusters movie or show?
I'm saying make it a cartoon. So
Yeah, but who would you
whoever
cast?
fits the
Who would you have the voice of if you were making brand new Ghostbusters?
Chris Pratt, obviously.
Oh no,
I'm
hell
kidding.
nah.
I'm kidding. I'm
No,
kidding.
I would.
But I don't know who feels like sarcastic. I mean, look, Eric Bauza is doing Bugs Bunny right now, right? He's a great improviser, and he's really great at like a sarcastic, finding like an underhanded comment, like a side comment. Eric Bauza is a great. Make him Peter. Why not?
No, I want new Ghostbusters, new characters.
Oh, new characters. That's what you're talking about.
Yes.
I thought you were talking about actors. I'm sorry. I guess I would like. Why not bring in the Extreme Ghostbusters characters? Let them all be a team. Bring in that Chicago guy. I really was in love with the IDW series, so the comic book series, and I thought they did it in such a smart way. Like it's all canon. Bring in all of those characters. Bring in the characters from Answer the Call. Let them all be in the same universe, and then your team can be diverse and switch people out. And there are women, there are people of color, there are every different kind of person, and your team is whoever from that pool of people is necessary for that week. So sort of like in X-Men, right? Like the team, even the X-Men animated series team now is like 13 people or something. All you need the 3 people of the week who are going to go on this job, right?
Yeah. Might I make it just mention that Extreme Ghostbusters, if it came out today, people would be like, woke.
It was woke. Woke is good.
Yeah,
it was woke.
But like,
it included a Ghostbuster in a wheelchair. Like that's a little crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's great.
Right.
Why not? Everyone deserves to be seen on screen. Everyone deserves to see themselves on screen.
Yeah.
Why not?
It was a completely diverse group. You had Garrett. He was a white jock in a wheelchair. You had Kylie, who was kind of goth. Then you have Eduardo.
Was she ethnic in some way, Kylie?
I don't.
She was Kylie Griffin, but
yeah, I don't think so. But she did have She was the one member of the team with prior paranormal knowledge because her friend.
She was a goth.
Her friend was a victim of the Grundle, which was
not the Grundle. Okay.
And so like whatever. So there's a whole thing there. And then you have Eduardo. And then you had Roland, who was voiced by Alfonso Ribeiro.
That's right.
So
I will give them props for the restraint not to make the guy in the wheelchair named Roland.
Oh. Yeah, that works. What sucks about Garrett being in the wheelchair is that because the show only lasted a season, they didn't make a toy of him. But then they were planning for phase 2 of the toy line to then have a Garrett toy, but then they never did a season 2, so they never did a phase 2 of the toy line. Which means
these lost toy concepts are, they hurt me a lot. But he
was a main character. Like there was
Young Justice never made a toy line of season 2, and the amount that I wanted a Lagoon Boy. I mean, I need my Lagoon Boy action figure. Yeah. I need him to puff up.
Yeah. It's been nice talking about this movie and just about Ghostbusters in general with you guys, because again, I think that we all come at it from different angles. Like, what do we need for a Ghostbusters movie to be successful? And I think that I think that this is a franchise that can keep going, but where can it go past this point? And I think through talking about it, we've come up with different options. So maybe if they, if all the executives and whatnot listen to us, maybe there's hope. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on this show and chatting and talking and everything. I want to thank everybody out there for watching. Ginger Snark, who had some great thoughts in the comments, as well as Aries 13 out there. Before we get going, though, where can we find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug? Gil, you want to go first?
Still have all of my comedy shows going on. We have Family Dinner with Jodie Sweetin. We are at the Bourbon Room once a month. The next one is going to be, I believe, April 25th. So definitely check out bourbonroom.com for our lineups and for times. Come meet Jodie Sweetin, who is, everyone's childhood crush. Come buy a t-shirt, get one signed, hang out with us. It is really the funnest night of the year, of the month for us. We also do a show at UCB every month called Pop Cultured. It is a comedy game show based all around pop culture. It's kind of like At Midnight, but it's funny. Come see Jimmy Pardo host. I know that next month we have I believe we have Bobby Moynihan is going to be on that show, and Ashley Hairston, who is Babs Bunny and among other wonderful characters she plays. So it's going to be really, really fun, and you're going to have the best time of your life. I promise. I can absolutely promise that.
Gil, thank you for coming on. It's been a long time, so I'm glad that you were able to come here. And
so excited to see you and talk nerd stuff again.
Yeah. Did you say what your usernames are?
It's GJ Baron on all the things.
All right, GJ.
Find me at GJ Baron, and you'll find all of my things.
Okay, awesome. Justin, where can we find you? What do you got coming up?
Well, if you want to find me, you'll have to send a message to my voice mailbox 2 to 3 business years and maybe I'll let you follow. Just kidding. You can find me wherever toys are sold, on TikTok, Twitter, and on Instagram, and now on YouTube. That's right. Freddie's Roommate is now on YouTube because TikTok might be going the way of the dodo, but that's fine. That's cool. I'm fine. But if you would like the live opportunity to meet me in person, I will be at Chicago C2E2 at the end of April. All the cool kids are going to be there. I don't know who else is going to be there, but I'll be there.
Are the Ghostbusters going to be making an appearance?
I mean, I got recruited. I don't know if you got the call. They said, who are you going to call? And they called me.
They called you first.
Yeah.
I will also be at Chicago C2E2 at the end of April.
Hey.
And we'll see. I'm still, in talks with the Ghostbusters crew. We're working on our contracts. So will I be suited up by then? Possibly. You're gonna have to stay tuned to find out. I got some ideas. This movie did make me want to suit up. I'll be honest.
It did, didn't it? The black suits look good.
The black suits.
Even Penfield, his suit, I liked it so much. Oh, it was
You're
great.
not gonna convince me to like Penfield. I don't care much about him.
What? Why don't you like Fun?
He's not fun. Was he fun?
That's the whole point. He's funny because he's not funny.
Oh.
I liked him. I liked the moment where he's like talking to the ghosts in the warehouse, and he's like talking to the
possessor?
The possessor ghost. He's like, I'll give you a tennis ball. That was fun. That was cute.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I actually was scared in the scene when the things shut down. When the power shut down.
Yeah.
And that and it's like, oh, cool.
Nice.
I did like that a lot. But thank you both of you so much for coming on. For anyone out there who is watching and or listening, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. Or you're listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, all that sorts of stuff. Pretty much anywhere you get podcasts, we are there. This show is the Keeg Talks, and obviously this episode is the Keeg Talks Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, but the Keeg Talks a bunch of different things every single week, so definitely stay tuned. We're back from a hiatus, so next week we will be talking about Godzilla, Kong, the New Empire, and I should mention, and I wanted to mention this, there are 3 movies that are, there's 2 Empire movies, there's Frozen Empire, there's New Empire. And both of those, Ghostbusters and King Kong Godzilla, have to do with some frozen ice power. I just think that's interesting, because I think that's what the bad guy in the Godzilla Kong movie gets, is something that creates ice.
You reminded me of a thought.
What?
I need to extend our Twitch even longer.
Yeah.
But we were talking earlier about Ghostbusters 2 and does the villain have the theme?
Yeah.
Remember, the villain in the movie, the thing that goes throughout the movie is the mood slime, right?
Yeah.
It's about being good to each other and stop being an asshole all around the world. And the whole ending is you get the entire city of New York to like fucking sing together and like feel good. And that's the thing that destroys Vigo. So the theme of Ghostbusters 2 is very clearly about just being like a nice person and like, let's stop being assholes to each other and whatever. Here, like, all of the imagery around the selling of this movie was about like frozen and ice and all of this stuff, and there could have been some kind of theme in the movie about feeling frozen, feeling locked in place, feeling like you're not moving on, and that just could have been and that's like, if you're gonna make a movie where the thing is ice and it's not just another ghost and this is like the ice themed ghost, then there should be, I think, some emotional theme that like ties into that.
A reason why wasn't he just like, he could have been the
why isn't he just a scary guy?
The demon of sand, and like sand goes through the city. You know, that's true.
Thank you.
Good point there. And then there's also Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which also deals with an empire and an ape, but there's no empire in the subtitle. Anyway, just, you know, this is the year for frozen monkeys and empires. So, you know, take it for what you will. If you are on social media out there, at The Keeg Show or / The Keeg Show, wherever. TikTok and Instagram are our two biggest ones. We're also on Facebook and Twitter and Threads and all that stuff. At The Keeg Show or / The Keeg Show. We're also on Patreon. Patreon.com / The Keeg Show as well. This is The Keeg Talks, but we have other shows. We got Comic Talk every Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We also have State of X, which is our monthly X-Men series. And then it seems likely that we are going to be doing episodes for the X-Men 97 show as well, because I feel like I need a podcast episode for this series. So that will be tomorrow on Monday, you know, March 25th, if you're hearing this. Either way, we got a lot of shows coming at you from the Keeg, so definitely stay tuned. We're going to be at WonderCon at the end of this month, so in a week. We're going to be at C2E2 at the end of April. We're going to be at San Diego Comic-Con, and then, you know, who else? Who knows where else this will take us. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Gil, Justin, thank you for being on this show. It's always great to have you guys. Thank you to everybody out there for watching. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been the Keeg Talks Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. It makes me feel good.
Super fast, gotta beat the boss and get the loot, cause it's the king, and we got geek